The following program may contain coarse language, violence, nudity, mature subject matter, or scenes which may not be suitable for all viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome to the X Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. And you're listening to us around the world tonight on the Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, X Zone Broadcast Network, and on Channel 54 on Simul TV. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, and on all social media sites, Xzone Radio TV. Before we get to my guest this hour, a good friend of mine, Craig Sim Webb in Montreal. Well, he's usually in Montreal when we speak to him on the show, but he's in Florida these days. And before we get to Craig, talk about dreams and music and other great stuff, big story in the news these days, it has been for the last, I think, 8 days now, is the Chinese spy balloon. Now, I've got a few questions. Why did the Americans wait so long to shoot it down? Number one. Number two, what happened to the Canadian armed forces? Why didn't Canada shoot it down when it crossed into Canada? And number three, why didn't the Americans shoot it down again when it crossed into American airspace, hovered over Malmstrom Air Force Base, where a great number of nuclear missile silos are? Why did they wait until it went over the Atlantic before they shot it down? Now, you've got to understand, during this 8-day period, it was gathering intelligence each and every second, day and night. And yet, we did nothing. Today, we find out that not only did we have the balloon that traversed from, China, Alaska, Canada, over the U.S., over the Atlantic, but there was also a balloon over Central America. Well, we knew this, okay? We knew this. But today, we found out there was also a balloon over Texas, as well as over Florida. Now, I looked at this and I said, Now, going back to the 70s, there was a story about a UFO that paralyzed missile silos at Malmstrom Air Force Base, as reported by Captain Robert Salas. Here we are looking at a Chinese balloon hovering over Malmstrom Air Force Base in the year 2023, and nobody does a damn thing about it. Okay. But here we've got two other balloons, one over Texas, Houston, as a matter of fact, one over Florida near Kennedy Space Center. And in Houston is the Johnson Space Center. Of course, everybody knows about the Kennedy Space Center, Cape Canaveral. Nobody did anything about it. What are we afraid of with the Chinese? Come on. If it was anybody else, we would have shot them down. But why are we playing, we got to be nice to the Chinese? It doesn't work like that, guys. They violated Canadian airspace. They violated U.S. airspace. And we didn't shoot them down until 8 days later, after they'd gathered enough intelligence. Brings me to another possibility. Is there a connection with the spreading of the COVID disease that nobody really knew how it got all over the place, and the possibility of these Chinese balloons? I think it's possible. And what are we seeing? Are we actually seeing proof that Roswell, New Mexico was not a crashed UFO, but in fact, either a Japanese Fugo or a Chinese balloon? Because some of the pictures that were drawn by the witnesses of the crash at Roswell and the retrieval of the alien or so-called alien entities, they look Oriental to me. And we're going to have all this information in this coming edition of the X Chronicles newspaper, which is released later on this week. Oh, I don't understand it, Exo Nation. My wife says, Rob, why don't you run for politics? It's very simple. I'd be assassinated before I even got elected. That's the way it is. You tell the truth, nobody wants to hear it. And if you keep pushing the truth, they try and shut you up. And if you succeed in still going after that, well, look at what happened to John F. Kennedy. I'm not saying that he did anything wrong. In fact, I have a lot of respect for the late president. But he was a man of action, not only of words, but of action. All right, let's get to our guest, Craig, Master Control. Craig Simweb is a guest that we've had on the show many times. We talk about dreams. We talk about music. We talk about Crescent Street in Montreal. We talk about the good old days in Montreal. And Craig, welcome back. Always great having you on the show.
Rob.
And to you, a very happy New Year.
Oh, yes. And for all those who have New Year's dreams, we can draw the link between the sleeping dreams and the dreams we have for our future, for our life.
How many different types of dreams are there, Craig?
Well, that same word gets used by people for nighttime dreams, daydreams, maybe. Depends. Mm-hmm. Some people call movies dreams, a 3D moving picture or a 2D. And then, of course, the ones that we just mentioned, maybe your dreams for 2023 or for your life or some longer. And there's a link here. The link is often those big calling kind of urges or wishes we have for our future, our hopes, our goals.
Yeah.
Those are seated directly, the DNA, like the initial motivation, in our nighttime dreams. So that's an interesting link not too many people draw.
Craig, do we know what the physiology behind a dream is? Like why we dream, how we dream?
Yeah, more and more is being revealed now. So there's definitely a lot of sort of what's going on during sleep. The why is always a little bit more open to interpretation. One thing that's been proven for quite some time is learning, or increased physical skill learning. I actually talk about that quite a bit in my book. A lot of artists learn physical musician skills. Not just talking creative inspirations, but actual like skills. Example, 25-time Grammy winner Vladimir Horowitz. Maybe not too many people know, but very famous Russian pianist. Actually dreamt often very complicated fingerings to get the piano right. And probably was training his playing right at night. So learning is a big one. Obviously health, rebalancing our system. I would say we got the psi factor. We have our little, to use your balloon analogy, we send out our little balloons at night to answer a question. So creative insights, maybe telepathy, clairvoyance, precognition, lots of things we can get to today. So lots of facets. And those things, all those things we just spoke about, they could help us in the evolutionary sense with survival. If we can tell when the woolly mammoth, or I guess the saber-toothed tiger is coming in advance, or if we can sense the environment, it could like protect our lives and help with evolution.
How does our daily activities affect our dream state?
Yeah,
I'll give you an example. Maybe you can help me. The other day, I was told that something negative about someone. That night, I dreamt of a snake. All right. Now I looked at my little dream book that I was given many years ago, and it said a snake is a person of deception and beware. Well, I already knew that, but is it possible that because of that interaction I had, or the information I was given, that during my dreams, I actually changed this person from a person into a snake?
Maybe that's from a waking point of view. Don't forget, this is unobvious, but we have like kind of our fixed symbolism, and we call it life.
Right.
So the person is there. But maybe this is just a guess, because we'd have to see your other dreams. I prefer to interpret like a dreamer and their life and other dreams, not just a dream. But snake might be closer to the core feeling, and then the person was exhibiting the feeling, or was a mirror for that situation. The situation was a mirror for the feeling that day. You could say, yes, I turned the situation into a snake because the feeling is connected. Also, dreams know what your future and your next day was going to be. They know, for example, you have your little dream dictionary. So they might have seeded the snake to help you get a connection. Watch out for this guy.
Yeah. In your opinion, after studying dreams as many years as you've had and talking to the thousands and thousands of people you have, why do we dream?
Yeah, well, the learning's there for sure. I think one of the explorations we could offer is a question, not necessarily like an answer. And it sort of shows like how multifaceted that, I think, answer would be for why do we dream, is why do we live? What's life for? which seems like, how's that an answer? But it's just so multifaceted, and everybody's going to have their expression, feeling, ideas about it, opinion. Sense from, I guess, seeing people, we certainly dream for the physiology we talked about. We're certainly dream to get creative insights. Some of it just entertainment, play, fun. We watch a movie, we dream at night. Why is that so different? A little link you might like, Rob, actual physical movies that we see on now, like our streaming services and before, and maybe still somewhat on the big screen, were probably directly connected to us or brought to the physical life from dreams, since Thomas Edison, who more or less perfected the movie projector and the things that connects the soundtrack to the film, actually was often encouraging his employees to dream, like even at work, take a little cat nap, get a creative inspiration. The light bulb example.
Yeah.
And so movie projectors that make public dreams might have come from personal private dreams of a couple inventors.
Craig, stand by. You and I have to take our first break. Exonation, our guest is Craig Sim Webb. His website is www.dreamsbehindthemusic.com. And Craig and I will be back on the other side of this break as we continue talking about dreams, music, and much more. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell. Don't go. And welcome back, everyone. Before we bring Craig back on, if you would like to take part in the 2023 coffee survey, visit www.consumer-survey-coffee-survey-feb-2023, or visit us at www.xzoneradiotv.com. There is a link to that survey. We'd certainly love to get your feedback about what you feel about coffee, where you think coffee is going to be going in the future. Once again, the X-Zone is being brought to you by Beautiful Mind Coffee. Visit online at www.beautifulmindcoffee.ca. Craig Sim is our guest. Craig Sim Webb is our guest. His website is dreamsbehindthemusic.com. Craig, why did you decide to become an expert in dreams?
Well, I think it was more like I got kidnapped.
Oh, no.
Instead of me deciding. I use it as a little bit of a metaphor, but, I think you might know my story. I'm a good, let's say, good-natured and pretty official objective physicist, studying physics, scientist here. And it's not so much like I was exploring it. I really was a scientist in my identity. And then, pretty strangely, and now in retrospect, a little more obvious, but at the time, a big shocking experience, stuck under a whitewater raft, maybe 10, 15 seconds, no chance to gasp for air. Then cut to rafted the rest of the day, kind of as normal, near drowning, a moment when I thought, wow, this is it, I'm dying. And then started remembering 10 dreams a day, having lucid dreams, premonitions were very specific that came true. And so I guess I expanded and started exploring. And there probably was a moment, though, you're right, Rob, because I did a lot of research, ended up at the Stanford lucid dreaming research that brought lucid dreaming to the world. And then came back to Canada and said, wow, how could I get some of this research and maybe some of the knowledge that I've had out to the world more? And that night, or maybe a few nights later, as I was still wondering and wishing for, I guess, my career or calling, I had this powerful dream where I could speak at schools and speak on radio, television, and later in the dream, play music, share some of maybe the same insights creatively through artistic means. So, downloaded songs and things. And so I guess kind of like a link, I clicked on that link, and here you see lots of choices and devotion 30 years later. That's where I guess it originated, back in that simple dream and the choice to follow it.
Now, Craig, prior to your near-death experience under the raft, had you been involved in music as much as you are now, or was that the event that clicked on the switch that brought you to where you are, not only as a scientist, an accredited scientist, as a dream researcher, but an established musician?
I don't think that was exactly the moment where it started, because at age 19, I did buy myself a guitar. You might remember Steve's Music.
Oh, yeah. On wait a sec. On
they moved, so
they were
be,
on
near Place d'Armes Metro, but they moved to
That's right.
St.
Yeah.
Catherine's now. So during
Yeah.
COVID, I think.
I remember Steve's. Yeah, I bought my first guitar from there as well.
Oh, well, wait, we have to find out about your music background.
Yeah.
Anyways, just started fumbling around, didn't take too many lessons, singing a little bit. So I had the spark. As a child, I got piano
Yeah.
lessons, but never followed it. But then when I started, having these dreams, and then later music dreams, and I guess this enjoying music a whole bunch, I said, okay, maybe we'll put two and two together. And then I think, as I said a few minutes ago, I had this calling dream that said,
Right.
you could share music around the world and feel this incredible joy, like tears on my pillow waking up, like a real
Wow.
calling vision. I said, okay, so here we go. Slowly but surely, increase your skills, get the connections, get your experience. And I guess bridging left brain and right brain. So I think it probably came because I was so far into like physicist and like objective science and have to prove it, that later on in life now more and more include some of the art, some of the freedom, some of the lightness, maybe the same experiences or same like principles being used, but coming out in a more easily digestible form, which is also a little bit more enjoyable, not quite as dry as paper, text, research, but both go together really well because I'm researching musical dreams. Here's an interesting thing you might like about the research, because I know you kind of like the science side.
Sure.
6 out of 7 of the people in my first pilot study for, how easy is it to dream music from other people, just actually on the first night that they gave themselves a suggestion, in other words, they slept on it, seeing if they could have a musical dream. 6 out of 7 had dreams. 2 of them had 3 musical dreams. They had all of them. 6 out of 7 had musical dreams. And then within, I think, a week, by the end of the week, the 7th person had a musical dream. And, I think one had 3 years prior musical dream, the other one sometime in childhood, and the other 5, none. So I was like, wow, that's high. That's 100% statistic. That's like unbelievable statistics. So checked it out more and more and saw, at least anecdotally now, it's kind of like an on button. Soundtrack on here, just maybe like my muted mic a little bit earlier. Just got to press the unmute button and you get a soundtrack of music. Have you ever had musical dreams?
Yeah, I used to have a lot more of them when I was younger. Yeah.
When you had your guitar.
Yeah, when I used to play, yeah. I actually played in one of the very first Beatle clone bands in Quebec called the Cell Beat. I bought my first Rickenbacker guitar from Steve's. I bought a Vox amplifier from Steve's.
Okay, nice.
And I over the years I had the pleasure of playing with Gordon Lightfoot, Leonard Cohen, BJ Thomas. I jammed with him in Hamilton when he played out of the bar I used to own. Peter Noon. I've always loved music.
Because so there's a fit for the musical dreams earlier on, right?
Yes,
you're focused on it, you're interested. Now it's a little more past. But
it's different. And that brings me to a question, Craig. Based on what is going on in the world, do our dreams change? And do our dreams change as we get older?
Yes, and more, I would say. So let's say we change. Of course, dreams are going to change with our interests. You just we sort of pointed to it with your music dreams. With our focus. So if we get really focused on something, one night we could just have a dream on it. I'm sure you slept on a problem or a question you had. So there we can see that our dreams go. But in larger sense, as we develop arcs to our life, to our lessons, to our relationships, we'll see arcs to our dreams. We'll see cycles. There's pretty clear 35-day or somewhere around a month cycles to like lots of recall, little bit of recall. Have you noticed that?
Yes.
Like clearer, vivid, and then almost none. So there's lots of things that show up. And then certainly you can start to use these principles consciously. In other words, intend or focus on a certain topic, watch a video of, let's say you're a creative artist, watch a video of that art before sleep, or a business person, watch a documentary or maybe a Tony Robbins or something before sleep. And you'll see the dreams kind of hop on the bandwagon and they'll go on the topic. Kind of like I call it mental or thought momentum. And dreams are sort of deeper thoughts. So of course it's a fit.
Let me ask you this, Craig. Is a person who does psychic readings, are they experiencing a waking dream? And is this where they're getting the information from? Or is there something really paranormal about what they're receiving and how they're receiving it?
Well, I certainly can't say one size fits all.
Okay.
There's lots of levels of, let's say there's levels of piano players or, I don't know, sports athletes. Same thing for dreamers, intuits, and psychics, I guess. I would say definitely some are tapping something like an inner net. That's an analogy I use to the internet, but they're tapping inside info, intuition, maybe clairvoyance, clairaudience, remote viewing, sometimes across time. Obviously, they can tune into our past, which, we can remember things, but maybe they'll tune into future events quite accurately. And it's not too much different than dreaming well, because dreaming is a skill. It's not just something that happens to you. You can actually develop it like any other muscle or any other skill. So I imagine since they focus on it, they work it every day. Many, probably not all, but many start developing that skill more and more. And some are really probably super expert. Have you had any that surprised you, like a psychic reading or anything?
You know what? Doing the show for the last 33, 34 years, I've had so many psychic readings, and not one of them were remotely close.
Oh, well, we got to get you a psychic sidekick.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
True.
And that's, I feel so bad about that because, I get these psychics who come on the show. And in fact, I don't do it anymore because I felt so sorry for them. They come on air and they say, well, let me give you a reading so all your listeners can understand how good I am. Okay.
And they're way
You've
off
had a
base.
sister. Your sister passed away. No, I've never had a sister. Okay. Your older brother is. I don't have an older brother. Okay. Your father is giving me a message from the other side. Well, I don't know how he's doing that because he's still alive. And it goes on. And I felt so bad for these people that I just stopped doing it. And then every Friday night, Craig, we used to have what I called Psychic Fridays, where we'd have 2 or 3 different psychics on, and we'd open up the lines. And you'd always get the same question. Am I going to meet Mr. Wonderful? Am I going to get a job? I just decided it's not worth it. Because I'd chirp in and somebody'd say, am I going to find the love of my life? And I cut the psychic off and I say, hey, listen, let me ask you a question. How do you go out to try and find Mr. or Mrs. Right? Are you going out actively seeking them? Well, no. So you're waiting for the Federal Express person or the postman or your pizza delivery person, right? Well, no, that's not what I'm getting at. So why don't you go out and take positive information? And my producers and one of the station managers said, Rob, we understand what you're doing, but can you,
a little gentler?
Yeah. I figured, well, doesn't the listener deserve to understand that not everything that these psychics say are 100% right on? Yeah. So, and then when you look at people, for example, Sylvia Brown on Montel Williams said that this young girl was alive, this, that, and the other thing, and the young girl was dead. Robbie Thomas here in Ontario came on the show and was saying that this little girl was alive, or I forget how it was. She was either alive or dead, and this and that and the other thing. And what he said was the exact opposite. It brought the parents to tears. And then the question is, how can a psychic predict, even if it's in a dream, Craig, when according to all these people, we have free will? How do they know if we're going to turn right or going to turn left? How do they know if the future isn't done yet and we have free will? These are some of the questions that I just can't get answers to. And it's frustrating.
Well, I like that you keep I'd say like good, I use the word not in like the religious sense or anything, but good discrimination, like mental clarity. I have the scientist self. I guess luckily I sort of bridged a little bit of those two worlds. So it's a point that's very close to my heart. That if you throw out the mind and sort of analysis and checkability, like, verifiability, you're throwing out at least half the equation and just could take anything. You can't act on it. because it could be the true one, and it could be blind, and you'll never know. And so then you have to start looking at statistics. I answer it with a physics model, I guess the many worlds paradigm of physics, that there's lots of probable futures.
Yeah.
Some are more likely. We did get like quite a number of reports, and I had a strong, clear dream actually 5 years on the morning before September 11th.
Really?
September 11th, I guess 1996.
Yeah.
Of huge buildings crumbling into the ground. I didn't think anything of it at the time, but I just noted it in my journal. And I know one of the principles is you actually often dream things that are related on the same day previous years. I don't know, like a strange birthday dream or some kind of seasonal something. But I just happened to be checking back one time, and I think I might have searched, buildings crumbling. And I said, oh my God. And I got a lot of calls. So I thought, okay, a very likely or a highly probable event, the terrible events of September 11th. Some people tuned into, which is, that was a one time in the West anyways. So a pretty rare, unlikely thing. And the people that I like, or the ones that I would take as valid, actually had to have proof that they spoke it, shared it, or drew it before. There was one artist who actually drew it like crazily clear, I think, and showed, I guess, whoever it was, and was trying to get them to like be careful and beware.
Yeah.
So some of these things, they're always going to be first person anecdotal because they're a bit tough to prove, but there's been research that gives it, under the 0.1% probability of just random chance. And then I start to go, okay, there's something, and we need to explore, learn more. Some people have more of a gift. Some people trained in it. Some people are making it up, especially when they change the story. They said, oh, your sister. Well, I don't have a sister. And then they twisted, oh, maybe it was a past life.
Right.
So
Yeah.
That's starting to get a little bit more question mark.
Before we go to our break, Craig, I used to, in my earlier days when I was at CKTB, we would go to all the different psychic fairs throughout Niagara, Hamilton, Halton, and into Toronto. And I would watch the people go from psychic to psychic to psychic to psychic to psychic, and they're shelling out anywhere from $40 to $150 a shot. And I said to one of the organizers, why do they do that? And he said, Rob, it's very simple. They keep going until they hear what they want to hear, and then they leave.
Yeah. Hope.
Maybe
something like that. A wish.
Craig, you and I have to take a break, my friend. Please stand by. Exonation, Craig Simweb is our guest. www.dreamsbehindthemusic.com. This is the X Zone. I'm Rob McConnell. And for all the different shows that we have here on the X Zone Broadcast Network, let me see. We have Gulda Wieka on Mission Evolution. We have Kevin Randall on a different perspective. Coming back, Larry Lawson and Paranormal Stakeout. And they're just some of the programs we have. All the programs that we have that have been aired or are airing, including some of the editions of the X Zone TV show, they're available for you free, without any hitches, without anything. You don't have to dream about getting it. All you need to do is go to www.xzbn.net. We'll be back on the other side. And welcome back, everyone. Our good friend Craig Simweb is with us. www.dreamsbehindthemusic.com. Craig, how did your dreams influence your music?
Well, first off, I started dreaming the actual creative inspirations. Some of my songs have. I started noting also what I call musical archetypes. We have some pretty common or maybe semi-universal symbols of falling, flying, chase dreams. I'm sure you've had those, listeners.
Sure have.
So I postulated, I didn't know, I imagined there must be some archetypes that are musical too, just like there's visual or plot archetypes. And it turns out that there are, and sort of recurring melody themes or timings, or maybe the moods. Moods is a little more, loose because obviously there's only a limited number of sort of feeling ranges. But example for me, as a really creative person, the sound of my name here, Craig, creative. I often dream in descending thirds. So, bup, 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 timing, and also the note speed of, I guess, off the beat of like 4/4 time thirds. So I thought, oh, that's a pretty interesting archetype. Then I started having actual principles that, have you heard of synesthesia? Have you ever experienced that, Rob? Senses crossing over?
I'm sorry, what did you say, Craig?
Have you ever experienced synesthesia? Senses crossing over, sometimes like many of the artists I write about, and and interviewed actually
Give me an
see
example.
sound.
Give me an example.
Okay, well, Beyonce, I guess many of the listeners know this pretty famous artist here, actually wrote her whole visual album because she sees sound and music. That's why
Oh,
she
okay.
called it the visual album. Other people, I guess Mozart said, okay, I have a different, he didn't say synesthesia, but he says, I have a different skill than many. I actually see an entire composition finished in its whole entirety, even though later I have to play the parts over time separately and get write out all the parts. But I see and hear it and feel it all at once. So interesting kind of inner skills. And some of these things were coming as principles to me. I started seeing sound and music united on different sides of a coin. One principle that I liked was actual artists, that I was starting to write about would reach out, or I'd able to connect with them. So somehow people are tuning in a little bit to the work I was doing. And some of those things affect my own music too. I think probably the most obvious one we spoke about before that I learned more from other artists is I could start to do fingerings, or because I play guitar, or let's say some artists, they sing or learn how to do, the Bee Gees, a pretty big hit band, a little passe.
Yeah.
But the whole falsetto sound of singing like high voice, that actually came because of a dream inspiration and training that high falsetto.
Really? I thought it was because his underwear was way too tight.
Oh, well, that was the other postulated theory. So we'll have to double check it.
Staying alive. Yeah.
Just like that, though.
Yeah.
So that's the other theory, and I probably should include that in my book too.
I know that John Lennon talked about getting a lot of the ideas for his songs in his dreams.
The Beatles
that during recording sessions, that there would be times when something just wasn't clicking, and he would just take a little nap, and he would wake up with the inspiration, and that's where the inspiration for Nowhere Man came from, was a dream in the recording session that they were having at EMI Studios with George Martin.
He's a real nowhere man. Am I allowed singing now? Because you did.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, great.
You're my guest.
Also, dream number 9, by the way, interesting symbolism. 9, the actual number and universal symbol that we all know, is often connected with dreams.
Yeah.
So that dream number 9 came in a dream to Lennon, Nowhere Man. And also, this is less known. I'm trying to get the message out there. It's like a calling dream. So some are musical, but this is more like life calling, or maybe a career path dream. That McCartney, Sir McCartney, would often have a dream of digging up a tin can in the backyard. Recurring childhood, I guess maybe young, early teen years. And then all of a sudden, he's working with John Lennon, first few like recording sessions, or I guess not even recording, first few songwriting sessions. And then Lennon just tells, I had the strangest dream this morning. Yeah, I was digging up a can in my backyard, and it was gold coins. So no tin can and like dirt and messy rust. And McCartney said, that's really weird, because I have this recurring dream. And this morning, first time ever, I dreamt of gold coins, digging it up. And he kind of adds a little footnote to say, I guess you could say that us both having the dream suggested an interesting mutual collaboration that did pay lots of gold later. I think he's worth $500 million or something. So.
Yeah, talk about musicians. I think that everybody. I remember watching the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Yeah, live, like the original.
Yeah, going way back. When
Nice.
TV was something called black and white.
Everybody would gather around.
Yeah, and mom and dad and all the relatives, all the aunts and uncles would sit on the couch, and all the kids would sit on the floor.
Oh my! We're gonna have to carbon date you.
Yeah. Oh, geez, don't do that. Hey, listen. Yes, I will say it is true that I went out with Wilma Flintstone before Fred did.
Well, we won't bring Barney into this.
Barney was interested in threesomes. That's why I got out of the picture. Yeah.
Oh, that was a disclaimer at the start of the show. Now I get it. It doesn't say coarse language from the host. No.
Oh my goodness. Can people communicate with each other in dreams?
Yeah, definitely. And this is nice, because I like when something is verifiable. So one example, this is anecdotal and a little more statistical, has been done, But anecdotal is one of my star students who was, moving along pretty good after a few years of training with me. Said, okay, I want to meet this other student in the dream. He picked the name, but didn't know anything about them. I mean, they'd been in classes together, but didn't know
Right.
like where they lived, maybe the city, but that's about it. So he said, okay, I kind of turned my hand on the doorknob in the dream, realized, oh my gosh, this is a dream doorknob. I don't quite know how that came to him, but anyways, he
Right.
became conscious, lucid in the dream, started flying up in the clouds and said, oh yeah, I wanted to go visit this. And they gave permission. So I wanted to go visit Mika. So he kind of set the intention, I guess. He didn't have a GPS in the dream. But let's say a conscious dream where he's now guiding it. He's lucid.
Mhm.
He flies through the sky and lands somewhere near San Francisco because he kind of knew San Francisco. And he meets this Asian gentleman. Oh, interesting. And the old gentleman's talking to him a little bit. And then he sees this specific street sign, which I can't give, but let's just say it started with 4 letters that he
Right.
named. And then the Asian gentleman said, oh, yes, if you go down the street, and kind of gave the final directions.
Mhm.
So he flew down the street, saw the number 2 clearly on the apartment door, or I guess
Right.
the house door, knocked in. And I won't get into the whole story, but there's about 4 or 5 other facts that are pretty specific that he later privately, I made sure it was private without talking to each other, related to me. I checked with the other person who was in dream class. And she said, well, that's interesting. My father is an Asian gentleman because I'm from Japan. And it's interesting because another fact I didn't share, he saw her photo, the photo of the Asian gentleman in the lobby or in the, I guess, what do you call it, vestibule of the house. And she goes, that's interesting because I actually had it there up till a week ago, but now I put it in the drawer. But he was
Wow.
a picture of him. And so she described the picture. And then she said, the name of the street starts with these letters. I said, okay, that's good. Because I asked specifically what street.
Sure, of course.
And then enough facts to say, okay, we don't have to overkill it, but something pretty unique's happening. And she got so excited and into it that she sort of sent a dream and kind of met and found some verifiable connection. Let's say there's, a Skype, a StreamYard, a Zoom in waking life. Why wouldn't there be an inner equivalent? We can somehow connect with people off the radar using inner senses, maybe something like that we can check later in life and get a little bit of trust in our intuition.
Anything is possible.
Yeah.
Like I've always said, my friend, the only difference between a dream and reality is just doing it. The dream is the idea. Reality is the action to getting to where that dream brought you to. Craig, we've got to take our final break, my friend. Please stand by. And Exo Nation, Craig Simweb is our special guest. Hey, Craig, do you have any of your music on CD, or is there a place where our viewers and listeners can go to listen to your music?
Absolutely. It's on most of the streaming sites. I think a popular one now is Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. So just look up my name and you can find some of that.
Would you mind if we took some of your music and made it available to our listeners?
Depends which one. The clips. I think if you see, I sent you a link to the clips. Those are okay. You can use it. I think I've used it for bumper music, but full songs, I prefer that people kind of get it from the source so that it doesn't get too modified out there.
Oh, no, we wouldn't want anybody to modify it. We don't want that.
But any clips, sure.
Yeah,
all right, get super. People inspired for what they can find in their own dreams.
All right, please send me those clips again. And Exo Nation, our guest this hour is Craig Simweb, www.dreamsbehindthemusic.com. I'm Rob McConnell. We'll be back as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away, my friend. And welcome back, everyone. Just a few programming notes before we get back to our guest, our friend Craig Simweb. Larry Lawson, Paranormal Stakeout returns to the X Zone starting in March. I had the opportunity of speaking to Kevin Randall, A Different Perspective. He's going to be doing some specials that we are going to be broadcasting as soon as we get them. And of course, the X Chronicles newspaper for February. March is available later on this week at www.xchroniclesnewspaper.com. The X Zone is being brought to you by our good friends at Beautiful Mind Coffee, www.beautifulmindcoffee.ca. I was speaking to Chris Winslow, the COO of Beautiful Mind Coffee, earlier today. And Beautiful Mind Coffee is going to be available at Amazon.com as soon as the link is available. They're telling me that it will be on their website at www.beautifulmindcoffee.ca. Craig, let me ask you this question, my friend, and it only came to me as I was doing the throw for Beautiful Mind Coffee. What we eat and what we drink, does this affect our dream patterns?
Completely, as do, of course, medications, drugs.
Yeah.
So this one's caffeine. I think most people are pretty aware, don't have the caffeine before sleep, unless maybe in tiny doses you're doing like a wake sleep experiment. You want to have very like kind of interrupted sleep, not every night.
But in all fairness, I must tell you that Beautiful Mind Coffee has maca. It has decaffeinated green tea extract, and it has American ginseng in it. So
that could be interesting. I don't know the specific effects of those, but try it.
Send me your mailing address, and I will send you a package of Beautiful Mind Coffee.
Thank you.
My pleasure, my friend.
That's great.
And we drink it all.
Theobromine.
Pardon?
Do you know theobromine? That's the active ingredient in chocolate. About a third of people, that'll have a similar effect of a little bit more wakeful, usually after a couple hours of sleep.
I've got to tell you something here, and it'll be between you and me and all our listeners, right? My wife is addicted to chocolate.
At night?
Any time of the day.
Laura!
Gosh.
Okay.
Know what? It's funny. Whenever she's feeling down in the dumps, I go to the dollar store and buy $30-$40 worth of chocolate bars and say, "Here, honey, I hope you feel better."
Well, it activates, I think, the same brain center as the love does. So maybe there's a filler, a wish fulfillment response there.
Yeah, it's how does the different foods we eat affect our dreams? Body
chemistry, basic body chemistry. Yeah, just think if a medication affects it, food in a way is a light medication.
I can understand a medication affecting a dream, but
and our sleep cycle. Any mother will tell you breast milk is great for having their child go to sleep. Tryptophan. If you isolate the ingredient or the element, it's more or less like a drug. So, like different things will have different effects on our whole physiology. You space out after a big meal, it doesn't really matter what it was. So you'll start to see the specifics.
I don't know.
Experiment. It's not universal usually.
A turkey dinner kind of does it for me. Give me a turkey dinner, and then a half hour later, give me my old beautiful chair in the living room, and I'm happy.
And have you ever noticed any nightmares or upsetting dreams after different foods?
No. Well, just give me a second. Let me think about that. As you know, I've got MS. And there are times when after I had just been diagnosed with MS, they had me on different medications to try and see what would work best with me. And I'll tell you, some of those drugs that I was given, holy shit. Talk about nightmares, my friend. And others, man, they just did the trick. So when we went through and we were working with the team of doctors that I had working with me way back then, the nightmare dreams, the medications were taken off the shelf, taken off the list right away. But the ones that would bring peace, serenity, as well as doing what they were supposed to do as far as
physiological.
Yeah. They maintained, and thank goodness since 1980 I've been able to get myself into remission a lot of the time.
Thank goodness.
That trigger the relapses and getting out of the remission, but
could be so maybe like body wisdom, it's saying nightmare is a simple signal. This ain't good stuff. Don't take it.
That's right. That's right, and I believe in that 100%. Time goes by so fast when we're with you, Craig. I want to thank you so much for joining us. It's always a great pleasure having you here.
Excellent. And fun.
I've got to tell you something, pal.
A little bit of fun here.
I've known you, I don't know how many years now. I think we've passed the 10-year mark since you've been on the show with us.
Easily, yeah.
I respect you. because you're a scientist. You've paid your dues. You know what you're talking about. We have people come on the show who are dream experts, that their expertise comes out of a book. You, my friend, are the real McCoy. And I want to thank you very much for all you do and for bringing the information as well as your personal experiences up to the listeners of the Exo Nation. So now I'd like to ask you, Craig, what is your final message for our listeners and viewers tonight?
Well, appreciation first for recognizing that. Not everybody recognizes that. Appreciation for listeners who might act on some of this, let's say, some of the fun stories, but there's some helpful tips hidden in there, principles you could try, experiments. Certainly on the website or in the book, you can check out more. So thanks for acting on them, because we want your dreams, your hopes, your inside info, your insights in our world. So please act on your dreams. And if you want to check out the book, there's lots of great, interesting stories, but lots of universal principles and some techniques, dreamsbehindthemusic.com. And if it speaks to you or the show speaks to you and you want to go a little deeper, check out craigwebb.ca. And we can discuss and see if you want to train or be part of a class or something. And then look at all the free info online that helps you recall dreams, how to go more conscious or lucid, how to have creative dreams. Let's just get everybody really dreaming a better world and a better life. That's what we're after.
Craig, always a great pleasure talking to you. Safe travels, my friend. Let me know when you get back to the beautiful city of Montreal, the city that I love.
Thanks, Rob.
I'll have you back.
I'll send you a link with a little music for your listeners.
Please.
Check out the X-Zone website and you can find some of those.
Appreciate it, Craig. Take care of yourself. Safe travels. And thank you so much for joining us tonight, my friend. Exo Nation, my guest this hour has been Craig Sim. www.dreamsbehindthemusic.com. Well, that's it for tonight, Exo Nation. I'll be back tomorrow night at 10 o'clock as once again we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And the X Zone comes to you from our broadcast center and studio in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. To Craig West, my studio producer, thank you. Mac Alexander, the director of programming for Relmar McConnell Media Company and all our broadcast affiliates. And a special thank you to my wife, my best friend, Laura Rogers, who is the senior executive producer of this show. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for your support. And Exo Nation, I want you to remember one thing. Always keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night, everyone.